So, what I want to talk about is support characters, group meta, and Druid. So it seems like Arian is just king shit. Not long ago, over the first few seasons, I started to make support barbs. I didn't get super far, but the idea was there, and I was making similar to the D3 support barb, the pull barb with the chains. It didn't really go anywhere until some of the big streamers started to make support barbs. And it kind of proved a theory that I had, which was support characters are so vital in this game. They just don't have a ton of gear, stats, skills, aspects. There isn't a ton that you can take to aim towards it. In D3, it was a similar kind of thing where there weren't a ton of, at first especially, a ton of support characters. It was almost like they didn't want support characters, but people found these cool ways to make support builds. And it was usually based on a little less on buffing the team and more about crowd controlling the enemies and grouping them up and that kind of thing. Debuffing enemies. Then the supporting your team really kicked in. Then both. Then it was just widely accepted support characters were awesome. And then we're at the beginning stage of that again, where people are proving that you can make support builds, which again I have to give where support barb, I pulled up a support barb and I fucking made it happen, and now it's pretty much part of the meta. So I'm pumped. So I think there is going to be more of that. I think people are going to be able to pull these support characters together and help crowd control, help debuff for definitely the support barb that we've seen with the chains, pulling, shouts. It just makes sense. My other support theory is going to be with Sorceress and tons of freezing, tons of stuns. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I've seen and made myself support Sorceress. Mostly with frost, mostly with freezing, mostly a perma-stun style build. So crowd control. Again, it's not really buffing the team, but if you can freeze the entire fucking screen, the person who does do damage, they're gonna be happy. They're not getting punched in the face, everyone's frozen, and they're just beating the crap out of them. And a lot of builds have damage to crowd control. So if you're perma crowd controlling, you're buffing your team. So Druid is another great example of crowd control. Between Petrify and there's some gear that you can turn your skills into shouts like that. There's opportunity there. It isn't major, but giving your team 15% more damage crit chance, I think it is. Huge. I didn't dig too deep into the support Druid, only because I think there's a hidden damage Druid that no one really messes with, and that's what I want to show you guys as well. So what I think the real meta is going to be, probably damage, whatever the fucking strongest barb is, probably damage necro. I would say one of those two, absolutely mega. I think one of those two paired with this super secret druid that I'm talking about is going to be kind of like the damage duo. Then I think it's going to be support, and I think it's going to be probably a perma freeze sorceress and a pull barb. That's what I think. I think it just makes sense. The pull barb's it's ingrained into us from D3. It's already kind of the support meta for D4. It just makes sense. So don't fix it if it ain't broke, kind of thing. But I think there is a hidden damage dealer in Druid. Maybe I'm wrong about how some of this damage operates, but hear me out. Now, the numbers won't be high. However, if you take the theory that I have and apply it to this group setting, especially this character, you could arguably have infinite damage. And you might say, what the fuck are you talking about, infinite damage? That's crazy. People are hitting millions, billions, trillions, with bugged builds, quadrillions of damage. Quadrillion? What the fuck are we talking about? We're talking about infinite damage. What? Okay, so how is that even possible? It's possible through the worst fucking class and the worst fucking skills. And I truly believe that if this class and this build had a support meta following it, you would be able to clear the highest anything ever. Now, granted, I will say, boss killing, you're toast. That's where your single target guy comes in. Probably, right now I'd say maybe Necro. The summoning Necro is just so strong. And people are so good with that class. And then the Barb is just the Barb. It's just, that class is so strong. There's no arguing it. So that's where you get your single target, similar to what we did in D3. Your single target guy, your group damage guy, your two supports. Excuse me. Now, both of the supports that are in this game right now are crowd control based. They are not really like the team buff based. I'd say the Barb is going to be your team buff guy, but he's pulling so many people in, I would say he's crowd control and team buff. So we got our team buff guy. The Sorceress seems to be like pure crowd control. Granted, there are, again, some damage buffs that you can get from when you crowd control people, you're going to do more damage. So that's a huge damage buff. If you're perma-freezing people, that's a huge damage buff for your team. Anyway, this is where the infinite damage scaling comes in. So, with Druid, there is an aspect, where if you hit an enemy with Rabies and it spreads, the cooldown for Rabies goes down. You can also pair that with your basic attack cooldown reduction. So if you hit a group of enemies with Rabies, the cooldown gets pulled lower to nothing. If you hit enough people, it goes to 0. So you could argue that you could just spam Rabies if you have enough enemies in front of you. You could just use it over and over and over. So, hear me out. If you were to take a pull Barb, group up a bunch of enemies, if you were to take a perma-freeze Sorceress and perma-freeze everyone, and then you take the shittiest fucking build in the shittiest class, and you fucking pin them against all those enemies that can't hit you, and perma-lower your cooldowns or whatever, you have infinite damage. Now, is the damage you're doing high? No. But if you keep spamming it, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going. So I think there's a reason why Druid doesn't get any buffs, ever. And if they do, it's not what you expect. Because it is secretly the strongest class in the game. If you pair it with a couple of support heroes and a single target hero, this thing is gonna wipe fucking everything off the map. Everything, because everything, it's just gonna keep, you just spam it over and over and over and over and over. It's fucking unbelievable. It's so underutilized. People use Rabies to level up, I think. But I'm telling you right now, mark it. What the hell's today? The 10th. July 10th. 2024. Druid's the best fucking class in the game, and no one knows it. Spread the word. And watch this very quick video about how it's the strongest goddamn build. And it's so underutilized. Again, I want to focus more on the support side of things, because this build only shines so bright if solo. If you have a team with you who can do the support that I'm talking about, I truly believe, I haven't been able to test it because I have no friends. I truly believe that if you had a pull barb grouping everyone up, if you had a perma-freeze sorceress, constant crowd control, you could take one of the arguably lamest classes. I don't even like saying lame, because the people who love Druid love Druid. I was watching, I don't know, all the streamers who play this game, and one of them was talking about, in the fun category, Druid shines the brightest. Everyone has so much fun playing Druid. However, it doesn't push endgame meta like the other builds. I truly believe that if you were to take a build like this and push it with a couple of support heroes, it would shine really, really bright. I think you need a single target guy. Necro is probably a winner, and then going back on that support side of things, you have all those minions backing you up. I think that could really, really support the team, and do single target damage. Once you get to the boss and all of your minions just beat the crap out of the guy, I mean, that's it right there. Of course, Barb is an absolute fucking juggernaut, right? So that's its own damage dealer. It's pretty obvious. But if you take a single target guy, pair him with a super group damage guy, infinite damage, and you take these support class hero theories, not theories, this is a proven support class at this point. I'm so pumped that that happened. It will fucking dominate. I don't know, maybe there's some damage scaling thing that I don't understand completely when it comes to the poison damage, but I truly believe, from what I've seen in my kind of internal testing solo, it scales. It doesn't seem to like top off. You can just keep adding poison to them, from what I can see. I don't know. But please spread the rabies, spread the word. Druid is the most underutilized class, and I truly believe that it is a group damage meta hidden within the Druid that no one really talks about and no one really knows about. And this stream is about supporting support characters and supporting kind of hidden gem damage characters. Again, pull barb, real thing. Very, very real thing. Permafrost sorceress, it can be done. It isn't like a meta yet, but I think it can be done. I know it can be done. I've seen it. I've done it. Your single target guys, they're there. You're gonna get your damage. Someone pushes that much damage. And then you have this hidden gem group damage character that again, I don't think anyone plays. I don't think anyone utilizes these skills or this combination in the late game. Early game, yes. But in the late game, if you were to take some pretty basic gear too, I'm not very strong, I don't have the best of gear, but I have kind of a combination of gear that helps me group some people up, it helps spread the damage, it helps lower my cooldowns. It is an interesting combination. And I'm not going to waste your time by going through all my gear and all my skills, because I'm dog shit. I'm so bad. However, I truly believe that there's something hidden here that no one's utilizing. My Paragon board's crap. I'm sure that it could be a better setup or whatever. My glyphs aren't really there. I'm not saying this is like GG. However, I think if it was scaled properly and like some of the smart players like took this idea and built off of it, I really truly believe that there's something there. So again, spread the rabies. Hashtag Druid stuff. There's something here, I'm telling you. There's something here. It's an infinite scaling damage. I mean, if you had enough enemies in front of you pulled together by a support class, you could have this on perma cooldown. You're already pretty close. If I had really high cooldown, this would already be super, super low. It already is super low. Plus, your basic attack cooldown thing, I mean, it's fucking crazy, dude. I'm telling you, someone make this happen. That's all I got for you today. It's too hot, but I had to make this video because this fucking class is such a hidden gem, and everyone thinks it's such garbage. And don't get me wrong, it still is. But I think there's something here, and I want it to grow. Going back to the support characters, I played a lot of support in D4 and D3, and I really wanted to pull over into D4. Going back to Paragons real quick, I think people always ask, what do you do with the blues? I think there's room for maybe these blue tabs, Paragon glyphs, whatever. I think maybe they could be the defensive glyphs. I think there's room for that. Maybe they'd be too OP too fast, but I think there's room for that. But there isn't a lot of ways to make your guy, and so many people can be so strong, near invincible. So yeah, you can't turn every part of your build into defensive. There are no real defensive glyphs that you can scale up. You know what I mean? You have to have, to get the additional bonus or whatever, it's still part of a damage increased build. So, but I mean, you might as well pop that in there. Damage reduction for Fortify, shit like that. Damage reduction while you're inhuman. The idea is there, whatever. So, but the point here is that it's not really all through Paragon, it's through these kind of unique combinations with these other classes. So it kind of turned into a longer video, but you get what I'm saying. The idea is there is a hidden infinite damage scaling build in Druid, and if you paired it with a perma crowd control type of support, it would steamroll.